as I mentioned, LSU wins the national championship, and yet Odell continues to dominate these headlines. But Acho, what's your reaction to seeing this situation now and what continues to be just a wild night for Odell?
Yeah, first and foremost, you don't condone the behavior. You can't condone the behavior. It's childish, it's foolish, and knowing that you are Odell, you just can't do that in public. Now, with all of that being said, they won the biggest game in LSU history in the last decade and change. The players are celebrating. Odell is clearly inebriated, but most importantly, you're in what you believe as a player is a safe space. We've all been there. You're in the locker room. It's a safe space. Any security that's in that locker room is there to protect you from outsiders, not necessarily to do you in. Now, again, we're talking about legal matters, so I'm not saying what Odell did or didn't do or what we saw on camera is illegal. I'm just saying, as a player, we've been in locker rooms. You're there and you think that that is your safe haven. Odell can't do it because it's childish and immature, but the whole situation to me is just unfortunate.
Yeah, overall, it's a very benign situation. It's not something that should be looked at as being totally malicious and, quite honestly, getting the kind of fanfare that it's getting. But we understand why it is because, one, it is Odell Beckham, and two, it was caught on video. That's why we're talking about it. And look, You can't condone what he did, and I agree with you, Acho, because of the fact that there was plenty of ex-players down there, ex-LSU players down there who didn't do stuff like this, who were down there who probably were inebriated, for lack of a better word, too, who were feeling pretty good and feeling no pain that night also, but they're not in the spotlight right now. So he made a bad choice. But you are right. The way that this situation now is being exploded to where now you have an arrest warrant issued for assault. I mean, come on now. Come on, you're right.
That's my point. That's my point, Louis.
People who've been in those locker rooms, you do understand. There's probably some things that go on in there that many people wouldn't agree with, that maybe many people wouldn't condone. For it to get to this situation, though, this is a little ridiculous for me.
And that's the thing. If there was a problem at that point in time, like if you really had an issue with it, make sure you take care of it right then and there.
Yeah.
And let's not get this all the way back to the police department 2 or 3 days later. The big issue for me, though, is the fact that you're, as an alumnus, you go back and you're hanging out with your former team, and you're there to enhance that and to enhance the quality and bring attention to them in a positive way. The fact that they have all these guys that are going pro, they have so many talented players on this team, and we're not talking about any of them.
The only reason we're not, and we said this at pre-show, because it's Odell Beckham. That is why. There's plenty of stars out there on the field who I'm sure weren't all acting appropriately. There are plenty of stars in New Orleans. I was there for the first half of that weekend. There was a lot going on. Now, Odell was handing out money. You can't do that. But if he wasn't Odell Beckham, this would not be near as big a deal as it is. Maybe still a big deal, but not as big.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if any of our other colleagues who are LSU alumni, whether Ryan Clark or Booger McFarland, were handing out money or they were caught on video, Acho, doing this kind of thing, I think it would be a big deal. What happens, though, is I don't think it needed to be now accelerated into the situation that it is now, where now all of a sudden you're having people say, I had to restrain myself from punching him in the face. Punch him in the face for what? How about you could have actually de-escalated this situation to where it's not even an issue. But they decided not to.
If you want to, you turn and confront him right there and say the behavior was inappropriate.
That's right.
Don't do that anymore.
That's right.
I'm in here to help you guys. I'm trying to keep this thing under control.
Because that is my point, Bobby, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on the matter. They are there, and again, we've all been in those situations to kind of protect you and keep you restrained and just make sure that nothing bad happens. But if you don't do that, now all of a sudden it's an issue, a legal issue for no reason?
Well, my understanding is the security guard was telling the players to put out their cigars. There were cigars. You're not allowed to have the cigars. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.